everybody, and welcome back to the channel for this Thursday morning, afternoon or evening across the world where you may be at. And today I'm going to be talking about autism and masking, autism assumptions and coping strategies. This is a topic that was brought up during my lovely, fantastic, amazing lunch meeting yesterday with my dear local Elvis tribute, who I class as family, Andy Otley. I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning him. We were talking about how him and me, we have to mask when we're out in public because we are public facing people. We're both doing public profile things. He is obviously doing the Elvis side of things. I'm doing the autism disability side of things. So we were talking about how much pressure there is to be coming across as normal and not having any stress or anxieties, or that we show that to people when we're out in public. And it was quite an interesting discussion. I think we raised quite a few points in that discussion yesterday that we both learnt we are very, very, very similar to each other in regards to the way that we mask and the way that we mimic and the way that we cope in the outside world, because there's a lot more pressure put on us to act a certain way, to appear a certain way, to be a certain way. And yeah, so I wanted to get into this topic. I thought it was a really good topic to discuss and to bring to the public's attention. So yeah, yesterday when we were talking in our chat, we began talking about how people mask and how as public facing people we have to mask a lot because they don't like to see the struggles. So when that mask starts to fall, and for Andy, for me, it's very similar. When that mask starts to fall, the more real side of us comes out. And when people see that real side of us coming out, then I'm not saying that we're faking anything, but we have to kind of, I guess, put up a persona, a way to protect ourselves from being hurt, judged, criticised, or made fun of. And when that mask starts to fall, people then will jump on the bandwagon and be like, oh, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you acting right? Why do you act like this? Why do you say that? You know, it's kind of, they like to judge on the bandwagon and jump onto our weaknesses, our little weak areas that we may come across in public. And I think this is to do with fear, assumptions, stereotypes, media stereotypes, which can be really damaging for people like Andy, for people like me, who are disabled or struggle with the overwhelm of being a public-facing person. It can be quite overwhelming sometimes. And me and Andy have known each other, 9 and a bit years now, I believe it is. And he's just brilliant with me. And something that he taught me yesterday, actually, when we were talking about this topic, is quite good. And he said to me, Gemma, Gem, he calls me Gem, he said, Gem, I don't see your autism, I see you. And that really froze me, to be honest with you. I was like, and he looked at me, he goes, what? And I'm like, it threw me because I'm not used to people seeing me. They usually tend to see the label before me. So I'm always used to people going, oh, well, Gem is just autistic. You know, Gem is the autistic woman. She's the autistic girl. She's the, you know, she's the girl that has autistic struggles. You know, she's been diagnosed. Gemma is just autistic. You know, she lives as a autistic woman. You know, she struggles with her autism, or you know, she struggles to be social because of her autism. So it's always the label first rather than the person first. And Andy really, really actually hit my heartstring. I was like, what? And he was like, Gem, I've always seen you. I don't see your autism. I see you as the person. And I was taken aback. I was like, wow, hold on a minute. So for him to actually say that as someone who's a public-facing person, someone who's a neurotypical person, he really hit home with me yesterday. And I was like, okay. And he said to me, Gem, he goes, I'm very similar to you. He goes, the way that we mask is because we choose to protect ourselves and defend ourselves, but we have to put on this, we're happy, woohoo, everything's great, and we're having a great time, and everything's not panicky and anxious and stressful, and we're not overwhelmed in our heads 24/7, 7 days a week. And that can be exhausting because you have to carry that for so long. Every day there's the pressure of having to be the perfect person. And I know that perfection doesn't exist. I know about that. I know that we're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. That's just the way the world is. And for him to actually say that yesterday actually really made sense to me and really helped me to understand myself. And me and Andy also come to another agreement that people don't want us to be ourselves or let us be ourselves because they get used to seeing the person that we are in public. They get used to seeing the functioning person, or the person with the smiles, or the person with the cuddles, or the person who appears to be strong and, you know, who's always sociable and says hello and greets people and dances with people and sings with people. And, you know, we're seen to be these party people who don't have any problems or don't have any struggles. And that, to be quite frankly honest with you, is ridiculous, because of course we have our own struggles. We mask because we're seen to be camouflaging, we're seen to be functioning, we're seen to be happy and agreeable and party people and personal people, and, you know, we're seen to be these chatty sociable people because that's what is expected of us, because we are public facing, I guess if you want to call it influencers. I guess we are people who are there meeting members of the public. We help out in different ways in the community. He does his Elvis work with people with disabilities and care home gigs and social club gigs and pub gigs, and he mixes with a lot of different people than I do. I'm very more restricted in my social circles. I associate more with the disabled and mental health communities because that is what I'm part of. I associate with people who are very similar to myself. So, you know, we talked about that for a fair bit as well. And then we came on to talking about judgments and assumptions. This topic is something that I don't think people get with people like me and Andy, because we face so much judgment or assumptions about us. Like when people say to me, oh, well, you know, Gemma, your autism doesn't really show, or, you know, Gemma, you don't really come across as the typical autistic girl or the typical autistic woman. And that really patronises me, because clearly I am autistic. Doing this video, I've had to film this video already 3 times today, and it's got to a point where I've got mega frustrated trying to do so, because this video has actually really made me feel a bit emotional. And as you can see, my eyes are probably puffy from where I've cried a little bit. But yeah, there is a lot of assumptions thrown to people who are public facing, people who are in public roles, doing public work, like Andy, like me, like many, many others who are doing mental health work, disability work, you know, local tribute artist work. You know, it's a lot of hard work, and the world wants to see us as being normal and functioning and not triggered or upset or anxious or overwhelmed in our heads 24/7. I am constantly on a overwhelmed, heightened state all the time, because that is how my body and my brain works. I constantly run on an overload cycle. It's constantly one thing, and it doesn't stop. Like, I think that's the same for Andy. I'm pretty sure he will agree with me in this video. And for me and him, we are very, very heightened. We see the world differently. We're very people who work on timetables and structure and routine. We need that structure, that routine to function every day. That is just part of our human nature. We have to have that schedule. We have to know where we're doing, when, what time, where, who for, what pub, what social club, what care home, what group home. Like, you know, it has to be something that we are fully aware of within time. So, you know, we've basically been talked about that for quite a bit. So the next topic that we discussed was the lack of understanding within the public in general. And I think for us, this is a topic that's going to be ongoing. This is something that needs to be worked on over time. And like me and Andy mentioned the other day, it's physically and mentally exhausting for people, me and him, to constantly have to function on a daily basis, trying to be understood and respected and listened to and valued, because we are constantly running on overwhelm. We are constantly running on, you know, fumes that don't last very long. And it's hard because we have to be putting on the smile and the hugs and the party people personality, and everything's woohoo and tixie boo and nothing's gone wrong and nothing's stressful and nothing's overwhelming. And it's not real. It really isn't. It's really, really overwhelming to the point where, you know, like when I said to him yesterday, you know, when I first met Andy, I was very, very nervous about telling him about my autism, because you know, I didn't know what to say or how to come across with it. I didn't know if I should tell him or his reaction. I told him this yesterday, and he was like, why would you be like that? And I'm like, because I wasn't sure of his reaction, and he had the most sweetest thing to say yesterday. You know, he was like, Jem, again, he goes, I don't see your autism, I see you, I see Jem. And he goes, you know, he goes, what did I say to you back when you told me about your autism? I was like, I can't remember, to be honest. And he goes, I think I said to you, don't worry about it. And I was like, yeah, that sounds right. And that really took me back again, thinking, see, he can be so accepting and understanding of it, and the nature of my autism, how it presents and how he sees me. He sees me, the person. He doesn't see my label, which is so refreshing and so nice to hear. You know, it's just so nice to be understood and accepted, you know. And like I said to him, for the first time in a while, you know, I felt listened to and valued and understood and respected. And Andy is truly a gift. He's a 1 in a million person. I couldn't imagine my life without him in it. I really, really couldn't. He is someone that has had his own struggles. He is someone that's had a fair bit of judgment, and which, well, I shouldn't say fair judgment, but he's had a lot of unfair critiques and a lot of unfair bullying on social media. But unfortunately, me and him both have experienced that. Because, once again, once that mask starts falling off, people want to judge you for the stupidest little thing. It can be something like not looking at people properly, or not saying something to someone, or, you know, not having a selfie with somebody, or, you know, it's just ridiculous. It really is unfair, the pressure that we all get as public-facing people and people within, you know, public roles doing something to help people. And we have that special friendships. Me and Andy, you know, we've known each other for quite some time now, and I think he'll respect what I'm trying to say. So he taught me a coping strategy, which is absolutely hilarious. When he told me this coping strategy yesterday, I burst out laughing. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And he got told this from a old theatre friend, I believe, and he said it's called tits and teeth. So basically, you push out your chest, you stand up and smile. So he's like, he goes, Jem, tits and teeth, and I burst out laughing. I thought it was hilarious. I'm definitely going to start using that, thanks to Andy. And other coping strategies that I use are music. It helps me to unwind mentally and physically. So that's one thing that I use. Making my YouTube videos is another coping strategy to get my voice out, my experiences out, my own personal thoughts and feelings on an issue. My poetry, again, it's a way to get my emotions out safely without exploding on somebody on the phone or a text message. And talking to trusted people in my trusted circle. So it's people like my dad, my sister, my best friend, Andy, anybody within my trusted circle in that arena. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.